would seek aid from European colonists to deal with problem bears instead of hunting grizzlies themselves. Many authors in the American West wrote of natives or voyageurs with lacerated faces and missing noses or eyes, due to attacks from grizzlies. 115, 116. Many Native American tribes both respect and fear the brown bear. 114, 116, 117. In Quaker mythology, American black and brown bears became enemies when grizzly bear women killed black bear women for being lazy. Black bear women's children, in turn, killed grizzly bear women's own cubs. 118. Sleeping Bear Dunes is named after an Ojibwe legend, where a female bear and her cubs swam across Lake Michigan. According to the legend, the two cubs drowned and became the Manitou Islands. The mother bear eventually got to shore and slept, waiting patiently for her cubs to arrive. Over the years, the sand covered the mother bear up, creating a huge sand dune. Conflicts with humans. Grizzlies are considered more aggressive compared to black bears when defending themselves and their offspring. 119. Unlike the smaller black bears, adult grizzlies do not climb trees well, and respond to danger by standing their ground and warding off their attackers. 120. Mothers defending cubs are the most prone to attacking, and are responsible for 70% of humans killed by grizzlies. 121. Native Americans fighting grizzly bears. 1844 painting by George Catlin. A rough and tumble with a grizzly by H. Bullock Webster. Watercolor. Grizzly bears normally avoid contact with people. In spite of their obvious physical advantage, they rarely actively hunt humans. 122. Most grizzly bear attacks result from a bear that has been surprised at very close range, especially if it has a supply of food to protect, or female grizzlies protecting their offspring. 123. Hugh Glass being attacked by a grizzly bear. From an early newspaper illustration of unknown origin, increased human-bear interaction has created problem bears. Bears adapted to human activities or habitat. 124. Exacerbating phases. The fact that intensive human use of grizzly habitat coincides with the season or movement of grizzly bears. 123. Aversive air conditioning using rubber bullets, foul-tasting chemicals or acoustic deterrent devices attempt to condition bears to associate humans with unpleasantness, but is ineffective when the bears have already learned to positively associate humans with food. 125. Such bears are translocated or killed because they pose a threat to humans. The BC government kills approximately 50 problem bears each year. 125. And overall spends more than $1 million annually to address bear complaints, relocate bears or kill them. 125. A bear killing a human in a national park may be killed to prevent its attacking again. 126. Bear awareness programs have been developed by communities in grizzly bear territory to help prevent conflicts with both black and grizzly bears. The main premise of these programs is to teach humans to manage foods that attract bears. Keeping garbage securely stored, harvesting fruit when ripe, securing livestock behind electric fences, and storing pet food indoors are all measures promoted by bear awareness programs. 127. Revelstoke, British Columbia, is a community that demonstrates the success of this approach. In the 10 years preceding the development of a community education program in Revelstoke, 16 grizzlies were destroyed and a further 107 were relocated away from the town. An education program run by Revelstoke Bear Aware was put in place in 1996. Since the program began, just 4 grizzlies have been eliminated and 5 have been relocated. 128. For backcountry campers, Hanging food between trees at a height unreachable to bears is a common procedure, although some grizzlies can climb and reach hanging food in other ways. An alternative to hanging food is to use a bear canister. 129. Traveling in groups of 6 or more can significantly reduce the chance of bear-related injuries while hiking in bear country. 130. Grizzly bears are especially dangerous because of the force of their bite, which has been measured at over 8 megapascals, 1160 psi. It has been estimated that a bite from a grizzly could even crush a bowling ball. 131. Bear watching. In the past 20 years in Alaska, ecotourism has boomed. While many people come to Alaska to bear hunt, the majority come to watch the bears and observe their habits. Some of the best bear viewing in the world occurs on coastal areas of the Alaska Peninsula, including in Lake Clark National Park and Preserve. Bear catches a salmon at Brooks Falls Katmai National Park and Preserve, and the McNeil River State Game Sanctuary and Refuge. Here bears gather in large numbers to feast on concentrated food sources, including sedges in the salt marshes, clams in the nearby tidal flats, salmon in the estuary streams, and berries on the neighboring hillsides. Katmai National Park and Preserve is one of the best spots to view brown bears. The bear population in Katmai is estimated at a healthy 2,100. 132. The park is located on the Alaskan Peninsula about 480 kilometers, 300 mi, southwest of the city of Anchorage. At Brooks Camp, a famous site exists where grizzlies can be seen catching salmon from atop a platform. It can be even viewed in line from a camp. 133. In coastal areas of the park, such as Hello Bay, Geographic Harbor, Swig Shark Lagoon, American Creek, Big River, Comiskahawk River, Savanoski River, Moraine Creek, Funnel Creek, Battle Creek, Nantucket Creek. 134. Kukak Bay and Kaflia Bay, bears can be seen fishing alongside wolves, eagles, and river otters. Coastal areas host the highest population densities year-round because there is a larger variety of food sources available. But Brooks Camp hosts the highest population, 100 bears. 135. The McNeil River State Game Sanctuary and Refuge, on the McNeil River, is home to the greatest concentration of brown bears in the world. An estimated 144 individual bears have been identified at the falls in a single summer, with as many as 74 at one time. Winking sad smiley. 136. 60 or more bears at the falls is a frequent sight, and it is not uncommon to see 100 bears at the falls throughout a single day. 137. The McNeil River State Game Refuge, containing Chenik Lake and a smaller number of grizzly bears, has been closed to grizzly hunting since 1995. 138. All of the Katmai McNeil area is closed to hunting except for Katmai National Preserve, where regulated legal hunting takes place. 139. In all, the Katmai McNeil area has an estimated 2,500 grizzly bears. 140. Admiralty Island, in southeast Alaska, was known to early natives as Ksutsnolu, meaning fortress of bears, and is home to the densest grizzly population in North America. An estimated 1,600 grizzlies live on the island, which itself is only 140 kilometers, 90 mi, long. 141. One place to view grizzly bears in the island is probably Pack Creek, in the Stan Price State Wildlife Sanctuary. 20 to 30 grizzlies can be observed at the creek at one time, and like Brooks Camp, visitors can watch bears from an above platform. 142. Kodiak Island, hence its name, is another place to view bears. An estimated 3,500 Kodiak grizzly bears inhabit the island, 2,300 of these in the Kodiak National Wildlife Refuge. 143, 144. The O'Malley River is considered the best place on Kodiak Island to view grizzly bears. 145. Protection. A grizzly in Denali National Park. The grizzly bear is listed as threatened in the contiguous United States and endangered in parts of Canada. In May 2002, the Canadian Species at Risk Act listed the prairie population, Alberta, Saskatchewan and Manitoba range, of grizzly bears as extirpated in Canada. 146. As of 2002, grizzly bears were listed as special concern under the COSWIC Registry, 147, and considered threatened under the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. 148. Within the United States, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service concentrates its effort to restore grizzly bears in 6 recovery areas. These are Northern Continental Divide, Montana; Yellowstone, Montana; Wyoming, and Idaho; Cabinet Yaak, Montana and Idaho; Selway Bitterroot, Montana and Idaho; Selkirk, Idaho and Washington; and North Cascades, Washington. The grizzly population in these areas is estimated at 750 in the Northern Continental Divide, 550 in Yellowstone, 40 in the Yaak portion of the Cabinet Yaak, and 15 in the Cabinet portion, in northwestern Montana, 105 in Selkirk region of Idaho, 10-20 in the North Cascades, and none are currently in Selway Bitterroots, although there have been sightings. 149. These are estimates because bears move in and out of these areas. In the recovery areas that adjoin Canada, bears also move back and forth across the international boundary. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service claims the Cabinet Yaak and Selkirk areas are linked through British Columbia, a claim that is disputed. 150. U.S. and Canadian national parks, such as Banff National Park, Yellowstone and Grand Teton, and Theodore Roosevelt National Park are subject to laws and regulations designed to protect the bears. A sign at a BC park warns campers to hang food, garbage, and toiletries out of reach of bears, or to use a secure bear cache. On the 9th of January, 2006, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service proposed to remove Yellowstone grizzlies from the list of threatened and protected species. 151. In March 2007, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service delisted the population, 152, effectively removing Endangered Species Act protections for grizzlies in the Yellowstone National Park area. Several environmental organizations, including NRDC, brought a lawsuit against the federal government to relist the grizzly bear. On the 22nd of September, 2009, U.S. District Judge Donald W. Molloy reinstated protection due to the decline of whitebark pine tree, whose nuts are an important source of food for the bears. 153. In early March 2016, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service proposed to withdraw Endangered Species Act protections from grizzly bears in and around Yellowstone National Park. The population has risen from 136 bears in 1975 to an estimated 700 in 2017, and was delisted in June 2017. 154, 155, 156. It was argued that the population had sufficient layer covered from the threat of extinction. However, numerous conservation and tribal organizations argued that the grizzly population remained genetically vulnerable. They successfully sued the administration, Crow Tribe et al. vs. Inc., and on the 30th of July, 2019, the Yellowstone grizzly was officially returned to federal protection. 157, 158. Farther north, in Alberta, Canada. Intense DNA hair snagging studies in 2000 showed the grizzly population to be increasing faster than what it was formerly believed to be, and Alberta Sustainable Resource Development calculated a population of 841 bears. 159 in 2002. The Endangered Species Conservation Committee recommended that the Alberta grizzly bear population be designated as threatened due to recent estimates of grizzly bear mortality rates that indicated the population was in decline. A recovery plan released by the provincial government in March 2008 indicated the grizzly population is lower than previously believed. 160 in 2010. The provincial government formally listed its population of about 700 grizzlies as threatened. 161. Environment Canada consider the grizzly bear to a special concern species, as it is particularly sensitive to human activities and natural threats. In Alberta and British Columbia, the species is considered to be at risk. 162. In 2008, it was estimated there were 16,014 grizzly bears in the British Columbia population, which was lower than previously estimated due to refinements in the population model. 163. Conservation efforts. Conservation efforts have become an increasingly vital investment over recent decades, as population numbers have dramatically declined. Establishment of parks and protected areas are one of the main focuses currently being tackled to help re-establish the low grizzly bear population in British Columbia. One example of these efforts is the Kootsiematine Grizzly Bear Sanctuary located along the north coast of British Columbia, at 44,300 ha, 109,000 acres, in size. It is composed of key habitat for this threatened drum or barrel trap, used to safely relocate bears, adjacent to a building in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, United States. Taxidermied specimens at the American Museum of Natural History. Species regulations such as limited public access, as well as a strict no-hunting policy, have enabled this location to be a safe haven for local grizzlies in the area. 164. When choosing the location of a park focused on grizzly bear conservation, factors such as habitat quality and connectivity to other habitat patches are considered. The Refuge for Endangered Wildlife located on Grouse Mountain in Vancouver is an example of a different type of conservation effort for the diminishing grizzly bear population. The refuge is a 5-acre terrain which has functioned as a home for 2 orphan grizzly bears since 2001. 165. The purpose of this refuge is to provide awareness and education to the public about grizzly bears, as well as providing an area for research and observation of this secluded species. Another factor currently being taken into consideration when designing conservation plans for future generations are anthropogenic barriers in the form of urban development and roads. These elements are acting as obstacles, causing fragmentation of remaining grizzly bear population habitat and prevention of gene flow between subpopulations, for example, Banff National Park. This, in turn, is creating a decline in genetic diversity, and therefore the overall fitness of the general population is lowered. 166. In light of these issues, conservation plans often include migration corridors by way of long strips of park forest to connect less developed areas, or by way of tunnels and overpasses over busy roads. 167. Using GPS collar tracking, scientists can study whether or not these efforts are actually making a positive contribution towards resolving the problem. 168. To date, most corridors are found to be infrequently used, and thus genetic isolation is currently occurring, which can result in inbreeding and therefore an increased frequency of deleterious genes through genetic drift. 169. Current data suggest female grizzly bears are disproportionately less likely than males to use these corridors, which can prevent mate access and decreaseth number of offspring. In the United States, national efforts have been made since 1982 for the recovery plan of grizzly bears. 170. A lot of the efforts made have been through different organizations' efforts to educate the public on grizzly bear safety, habits of grizzly bears and different ways to reduce human-bear conflict. The Interagency Grizzly Bear Recovery